All right, Tony. So we'll go back. We'll go back to Newmarket where we are now. At the beginning, we talked about you got the job as Newmarket correspondent for the
Yeah,
Sport and Life. Henry Cecils took you under his wing. So you're sort of safely in Newmarket now, part of the team.
yeah,
Anyone that remembers the Sport and Life from back in the day, remember that Warren Hill, which
yeah,
I'm told was you, would tip at the
yeah,
bottom of the box
yeah,
of the tipping things. So in my 18-year-old head, when I first knew about Warren Hill, I always assumed there was a chap that got up at 4 o'clock in the morning with his thermos, a strong coffee, and his powerful bins, and he'd go and hide in the bushes and
yeah.
watch the secret gallops. Is that what it was like?
No, not quite. We had like some, back when I started, I would be indebted to David Mills, who was my understudy when I was on the racing post, and I got jobs when I was on the Sport and Life for, actually, because he was here and he was invaluable at help. He had an almost, well, in fact he still has got an almost photographic memory of a horse. I could recognise a fair few when we had Jane Bucknell, the late Jane Bucknell, who was Henry's nanny at one time, but she used to come on the gallop, so the three of us would like just be out there. And at the time there was legendary George Robinson, who used to do all the markings and stuff with his friends, and they used to stand on the hedge, you know, watching them, you know, and would register them, you know. But a lot of the time, the trainers like Henry and Saeed bin Sarua, they used to help us out, because it was, you know, they liked us and just sort of say this is such and such coming along, or if they had owners, and we sometimes would have the one, like, it was quite funny because Sir Mark Prescott would go up on the, we would be stood up on the sort of whatever, the stand on the Albahatri, and Sir Mark would come along with his owners and say, Mr. Elves, Mr. Mills, would you kindly remove yourself? I have owners with me. But you know, that was part. He was fine. Sir Mark was brilliant, you know. But
So the trainers used to tell you they'd be quite
sometimes,
helpful, which your horses, you know, if you saw one speeding away.
but what I can say, what I can say from a, you know, and this is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The form book was the most invaluable guide for winners, because I would honestly say, going out from February till October, there would probably be half a dozen times during that year when you'd watch a gallop and think, that's a certainty. That's, you know, think that's a lot of time to go out to find 6 winners, isn't it? You know. And one of the ones, I remember one of the ones, I felt a bit sorry for him, because Michael Roberts, I went out, because obviously you needed your torch, your headlights and everything, because Clive Britton used to work the horses virtually in the dark. But he was quite a laugh, but he was good laugh, you know, Clive. And I was watching this horse one day down Waterhall, which is where they start, like normally they start right towards the beginning of the year. We're down Waterhall, and this lone soldier come. I thought, fuck me, Jesus, this is gonna. So anyway, it was due to run at the Ascot, the first Ascot meeting, and of course that, like, Michael was down to ride it then, and they got called off. Of course, next week it was Guineas week, and Mick Cannan got on it. It absolutely bolted up. But there was like, so, you know, some trainers would have. There was clues, you know, you'd have, like, if you saw a 70 horse, or a 70 rated horse working with 2 90 rated horses, you think, hang on a minute, they finish up sides or something, you know. But there were certain gallops were like just explosive. I mean, from my point of view, one of the worst ones. Well, I wouldn't say it was the worst one, but it was just it had unforeseen circumstances. Was watching King's Best before the Derby. I was due to go to Yarmouth, because Henry used to gallop his Derby horses after racing at Yarmouth, you know, shortly before. And I went on the gallops before I was down to go to Yarmouth, and I saw King's Best. There was a listed horse working with it. They went across the flat, and they were about 10 furlongs. This mile listed horse went off like it was like a bat out of hell. And then Little Rock, it was a Group 2 winner of Sir Michael Stout's. went sailing past the lead horse. And then there's Kieran Fallon there, sat looked like he was going to have a cup of tea and have his breakfast, sat on the horse. And he just went, bump, 12 lengths clear. So the office rang me and said, what time are you leaving for Yarmouth? And I made this mistake of going, I don't need to go to Yarmouth. I've seen the Derby winner this morning, King's Best. I said, if that doesn't win the Derby, I haven't got a hole in my arse, you know. Of course, what happened 12 hours before the race, the poor bloody thing went wrong. So I was absolutely gutted, because it was a bit like Richard Berline when he said, I've seen the Derby win a Shergar. It was all the paper wanted it all emblazoned everywhere. Do you know what I mean? But you know, obviously, it was a similar. One of the funniest Frankel gallops was, we thought he was working on his own one day. This was again on the across the flat gallop, and he'd gone like 20 lengths clear of his lead horse, because where they came from, where they swung round the bend, past the racecourse stand, the lead horse had already been dropped. Then the lead horse was supposed to carry him through to say the 9 furlong pole, and Frankel had already gone, and it looked like it was a solo gallop, because he used to have solo gallops as well, you know, for horses. But it was just an amazing. But
so how many touches did you land because of your special insight on the gallops?
Oh, it's impossible. Honestly, it's impossible to say. I was once, I think it was John Brown owned one ran at Doncaster, and again it was so well handicapped, won out Sir Henry's, and I was told under no circumstances to write too much about it, because I wanted to keep it quiet. But I believe somebody I know actually got a BMW out of it, because they won that much money, and the price it was about 10 to 1. It won a handicap at Doncaster, you know, but absolutely dotted up, you know. But
and any special?
I'll tell you the horse I would, because obviously to each side there was a horse called Killer Instinct, owned by the Thoroughbred Corporation, that was backed before it ran for the following year's Guineas, and it was what they call a morning glory. Did everything on the gallops, and then when it got to the racecourse, useless. I think it actually won a maiden at Warwick eventually, but one of the best. The press corps used to come down like in them days before like for the gallops trials, before the Guineas and before the Derby, and one they were all watching. Temby was 8-13 for the Derby, I think, at the time, and they were all paying attention to Temby. He had a nice lead horse to give him a nice easy lead, and of course in behind they weren't paying any attention. There was a horse called Allegan, who was a group winner, and another horse called Commander-in-Chief, and I thought, I like this horse, Commander-in-Chief. You know, he didn't race till he was 3, but due to politics, Pat Edry wanted to get on Commander-in-Chief, but due to the politics of the situation, he had to stay on Temby, and as it turned out, Michael Kinnan won the Derby on Commander-in-Chief. So that night we got one of the haunts was called the Old Plough. Henry was up there. I went up to meet him and all that, to have a celebratory glass of champagne. And Geoffrey Farber, who was I was on the Sporting Life at the time, nice old boy he was, you know, Geoffrey, but not the sharpest pencil in the box. But he came in and he says, "You clever," and I won't use the word that he used, but he says, "You've done me again," because I tipped Commander-in-Chief and he stuck with Temby, you know. But that were wonderful days, because I think a lot of people who read the Sporting Life picked up on that, and as a result did well out of it. So I was like revered then, as they say, revered.
Tell us about you were telling me about a mystery grey on the gallops.
What was, I can't remember. Oh yeah, sorry, do forgive me, yeah. Well, there was Sir Mark, as we said, was very, very secretive, and it happened to be on this occasion, John Gosden allowed him to work a grey called Hasten to Add, with a couple of really good work. I asked John about this a few days ago, and he can't remember, but he said they were very, very good lead horses for him. So Mark put these Hasten to Add in the gallop, on the round gallop, on the lime kilns, and David Mills and myself were stood there watching this, and we see this grey sailing clear. So we didn't know what it was at the time. So breakfast time, I ring Sir Mark, and I said to him, "Oh, what was that grey you worked, Sir Mark?" And he says, "It's for me to know and for you to find out." So what he didn't realise was in the horse and training, how stupid of me, but in the horse and training book, it was the only grey, all the horse amongst his string. So it was easy to do. So obviously I put it in there, and Mr. Gosden, John, he says to him the following, I think it was the following day, and he says to him, "Yeah, you're slipping up, you old bugger." He says, "Why didn't you borrow one of my sheets? You would have been totally fucked." But anyway, the following week it was running in York, it was the Batley Handicap mile and 5 at York, and I'd napped it in the paper, and I said, well, I rang Sir Mark, we'll just have a chat. I said, "What do you think?" He says, "Well, I think I might need the run, Tony." I thought, what the, hey? I thought, anyway, I backed it anyway, so I was going to suffer if it didn't, but it was back from, he went, I know he wasn't putting me away, but he went from 11-2 to 7-2 and bolted up, was installed as, well, I was going to be installed as his favourite for the Cesarewitch. So Sir Mark did actually ring me and says, in fact, this was before the Batley Handicap, he said, "Do you have a little wager?" And I think he wanted to keep me under the radar. So I said, "Yeah, I'm not a massive punter, Sir Mark, but yeah, I would like to battle for." He said, "Do you want to battle for the Cesarewitch?" And I said, "Yeah." And so he secured me some. He says, "I'll leave it with me." And I just thought, well, he's an honourable lord, isn't he? So leave it to him. And I hasten to add, if it had stayed, it would have bolted up. But it didn't quite stay 2¼ miles at Newmarket. Anyway, it finished, I think they finished 3rd or 4th, but sort of Monday morning the phone rings, and there was Sir Mark, and he says, "Where are you, Mr. Elves?" And I said, "I'm just sat working." He says, "Would you like to come to my office?" And then he just boom, paid the notes out, straight away. Lovely, great man, great man.